Hello, it's Cisvolk. Time to enjoy card making with me. In this video I will show you multiple ways to do stitching on dies, how to attach and tie off your threads, and I will give you tips and tricks and inspiration for your own card making. Also I will show a few cards that I made using the stitched banner dies. However, you can use my inspiration for the products you already have at home. I made a few other videos with the banner dies already, and also I used the big word dies together with them. Because these are both products that are so versatile and I like so very much, I made a lot of cards and I had so much footage that I could not resist showing it all to you. You can find all videos on my channel Cisvolk, and I also will write down links in the descriptions below this video. So let's go to it quickly. When you die cut, there are always leftovers in the paper. While doing the stitching, the pieces fall out easily by themselves. But when you need the die cut as a background and don't do the stitching, it is more easy to use some kind of tool like these ones. I have one from Spellbinders and one from Cisvolk that work the same. Place the paper on top of a soft mat, you roll over it and the bits will come out easily. These tools are a game changer for me. It takes less time and it makes a mess, and you will get all of them out. For stitching on dies you can use cotton, DMC floss, even wool. A lot of them will work. You can use thicker or thinner threads or use more strands. The holes are thick enough. I find the best results work with DMC floss. I feel like making a rainbow. And for stitching this whole die, you will need about 1 meter and 60 centimeters of floss to stitch in one go. I will be doing a little piece with one color, so I will have enough having a shorter piece. This DMC floss consists of 6 strands. That's too much. I prefer to split them in two and have 2 pieces of 3 strands. Once you split them, they will start to tangle, so I prevent that by keeping the ends apart and straight and untangle the end. I will now show you different ways to attach and finish your stitching. There are no good or wrong ways. Just watch how I do it and use the way that works easiest for you. First way I will show will be the one that is done by making a knot at the end of the floss. I will try to show you how to make a knot easily. Wrap the thread around your finger. Then roll with your thumb over the end, having it tangled around the other loop that is over your finger. Once it is over your finger, you pull the end back into the loop. I'm used to do this quick and that always works for me. Doing it slow, I see I get a loop or a knot on a higher spot. Practice this and you will get better at it. The knot will of course pull easily through the hole. That is not what the knot was meant for. Use a blunt needle for stitching dies. The size does not matter as long as it fits through the holes. I always wet the thread with my mouth to be able to pull it through the needle. If you don't like that or still doesn't work, you can use hairspray maybe or petroleum jelly. Or of course a tool which is specially designed to thread a thread through a needle. Start the stitching from behind. Don't pull it all the way. Hold down onto the knot. Stitch from the front to the back. Now we want to attach these 2 threads. You put the needle through the thread above where the knot is. Of course, this can only be done with a thread consisting of multiple strands. Now you pull the thread and you pull back and forth to pull the thread tighter. And make sure the knot is in the middle, so you don't see the knot through one of the holes. Then insert again in the middle and it is attached, and then you can continue stitching. You can do this from the front as well as from the back. It will look the same on both sides. Now the first figure is ready. Normally you then proceed to the next figure. If you continue, make sure you start in a hole where the thread does not run over a hole. Should you stop here or in the middle, don't go straight over it, but take a hole a little further away so that the thread is deflected. What also helps is to take the thread under the threads already embroidered before and then, for example, start a little further and start here, so that thread is not exactly behind another hole. You see, this way you don't see anything and this way I can go on if I want. Now I'm not going to do that because I want to continue with another color. I'll just put the thread back where we left off. I'm going to tie off the thread, and this can also be done in different ways. I'll show you a few ways in a moment. The next figure we will stitch with red floss. Attaching the thread can also be done with tape. You will only need a very small piece of tape. Just stick it on the back of the die cut. Be sure not to stick it over the holes. You can stick the tape over the holes and then you can still do embroidery through it if your needle is sharp. I only won't recommend that because you will see the tape shining through and it won't be that nice. Also, what might work is using very sticky double-sided tape. The floss will stick if you don't pull too hard, and the threads that go over it while stitching the pattern will fix the thread as well. To fasten off the thread, you can also just use an adhesive tape if you like to. What I usually like to use for cutting off the end threads is this tool. It is called a seam ripper, but it is actually intended for undoing seams or cutting open homemade buttonholes. If you need an alternative for scissors, it works perfect. You can cut close to the paper with it. Instead of attaching the thread using a nut or stick it with tape, we can also attach it to threads we already stitched. Pass the needle under some stitches and pull it, but leave a small piece sticking out. Pass the needle under again, but leave a loop open. It will make it easier if you hold the loose end for a moment, so you don't pull it loose. Then pass the needle through the loop. You can do this twice for strength. And then pull it on. Pull the thread in different directions to tighten the knot. You see, now the new thread is attached. You can do this one more time if you need to for smooth thread. You can cut the loose end a little shorter if necessary. And now I can continue embroidering the new color. And I choose this hole again, because then I can be sure it won't show through another hole. To tie off this thread when finished, we can do that in the same way we attach the thread. Pass the needle under 2 or 3 stitches and leave a loop open. Pass the needle through that loop and pull it on. Repeat this on the same spot for strength. Pull the thread in different directions to tighten the knot. The nicest way to tie off a thread. I finished all colors. Now I will show you the last way I know of to tie off the thread. Pass the needle under 2 or 3 stitches and twist the thread around your needle. First once at the point, then under the eye and again under the point. Only then you pull the needle through. Also put on the thread in both ways to get the knot in the middle. You now have a secure and neat bag. And then I could basically cut the thread. But in this case I want to go on for a while, because I want to show another way to pimp this die a little more. I will make a running stitch around the outside of the hexagon. Just go up and down from one hole to the next hole. If you are doing all of them, notice to start each hexagon at the same point, so your stitches are on the same spots. Looks nice, doesn't it? A good way to alter the stitching. I finished stitching the die cut for all colors. If you want, you can also embellish the middle with gems, or you can also do some embroidery in the middle. You would have to know or to learn more embroidery skills for that. I will skip that for the moment. I finished the card as a happy and cheerful birthday card. I glued the stitched banner on top of the bigger die cut and used foam tape to glue them raised. The words birthday and wishes I cut out of rainbow paper from Carline Design and I glued that flat on the white border edge. The base of the card I ink blended using Alina's colored blending brushes. Just some colors Memento ink, red, yellow, orange and blue. If you blend yellow and blue together, you will get this gorgeous shade of green. I added some pearl gems to the card. They are all the same size in all different colors. I thought the pearls looked very festive to go with it. As well, I drew a lot of white dots and stars to give a bling effect. To make the envelope festive as well, you already might know I used the tiniest scrap to use up all papers I have. I used this scrap and took a hole punch to cut out nice confetti to glue on the card. I better cut them from the back side, because this paper has self-adhesive attached to the back. And because of that adhesive, I only have to peel off the back and I can stick them to the envelope. Or use this same idea for the background of another card. Here I give you another idea to use this hexagon-shaped stitching die. Keep watching, I have more card inspiration for you. As I have shown you in an earlier video, you can cut the banner die multiple times out of the same panel and create a great background. It is made using only this die. On a square piece of paper I cut the paper, shifted the die and cut again. With every pass of the die through the machine, I kept the same distance. Better stick the banner die onto the paper with a piece of tape to keep the die in place. I went on stitching in rainbow colors. The stitching is so relaxed and fun to do. When stitching, I don't know how to finish the card. That is another part of the creative process. Putting a card together will come later. And this is how the back looks like. You see, I skipped from one pattern to the next. Here you can see the end result. When finished with stitching the blue hexagons, I glued the panel onto a black square piece of cardstock, a few millimeters larger than the panel itself. You can see the black paper shine through the tiny openings. The word hugs I die cut using the word dies. The shadow die I used to cut out of gorgeous rainbow paper. It is from Carline Design. I won this paper in a giveaway. Yay! I'm always into trying out new stuff. The paper I also used to decorate the envelope. I just cut the stitching die out of that shiny paper. Also, I added a few pearlescent gems to the card. And I used a banner text strip from my pile of banner text that I made with the ALINACRAFT text stamp set a while ago. You can not only fill a panel with just a background like this, you can also fill it up using cutout banners. In earlier videos I showed you that you can cut differently, making a frame around the stitching or not. Or cut out only the shadow die and glue the stitching raised on top. My advice is to use paper in the same color as the threads you used. Use the dies in different ways and layer them to create dimension as well. Also think about the colors of thread and colors of paper to use. On the left I stitch with blue thread on blue paper, the same color thread as the paper. Also grey thread on grey paper. It gives a very beautiful effect if the stitching is in the same color as the paper. Here I did the stitching in the same color thread as the paper of the shadow die. So when you start stitching, it is best to choose a color that matches the paper you are going to use. That will make it easier to finish the card. If you don't have the right color paper, you can always use ink to color the paper and ink blend it to your liking. This is not my best card. On this one I practiced the stitching and I tried out how to match colors. The yellow pearls make it all come together. Do you notice the border around the words "just for you"? It seemed better to me to add this border instead of leaving it open. Next there will be more examples and I will repeat some stitching instructions for you. Let's do a little different and use 3 different colors, but alter the colors of the stitching on the different colors of paper. We can stitch grey and cream or blue and cream. We can stitch grey and blue or grey and grey. It gives a totally different perspective and because we use only 3 colors, it has a calm appearance. Let me show you one more time how to make a knot easily and how to attach the thread to the paper using a knot. It is only useful to make a knot when you use a thread consisting of multiple strands. When I make a knot and use a thicker single thread, I was confused and tried to remember why this did not work. It is because the knot is not meant to stick behind the hole. Watch closely. You insert the needle from behind. Then you hold down the end, having a piece sticking out, including the knot. We are still looking at the back. Then you insert the needle in the next hole and still hold that end thread tight. Now at the back, insert the needle in between one of the 3 strands of floss. The knot will ensure that there is a loop and the thread is tight. Wiggle up and down to tighten the thread and shift the knot to the middle. Would it be peeking through one of the holes, you can still shift it. Now we can continue stitching. The thread is secure. Looking at the back of the stitching, we want to go to the next hexagon. If I would pick this hole, the thread would not show up nice. Therefore, I insert the needle under a few stitches. I skip the first 2 holes, because only then I will go in between 2 holes exactly. Would I pick the hole in the middle, the thread would show through another hole, and that would not look nice on the front. The same again for the next hexagon. This one is just finished. Would I pick this hole? It's hard to show you, but you'll notice it when you try it yourself. Then you can see the thread peeking through the middle hole. No problem if you cover it with gems or beads, but if you don't cover that hole, and especially when you are having a big contrast in color between the paper and the thread, my advice is to do it this way. The card base I use measures 40.8 cm square. But of course you can also make a larger square card or a longer card. I will show you how to glue the banners on, in a way that they are evenly spaced out. When placing them on the card, shift them around to see what color combinations give the best balance. I choose to put the dark ones below and not 2 of the same next to each other. I die cut the happy birthday out of nice textured paper. The shadow is cut in a different color than the text. I die cut both twice, to give a little more dimension. The card is heavy anyway, so a little more paper doesn't really matter anymore. While cutting, remember to use separate cutting plates for dark cardstock. The plates will get dirty and you won't contaminate your white cardstock if you use separate plates for them. For getting the die cut out of the die, I mostly smash the die onto my desk, easily to get it out with no effort or damage. When glued together, it now has some more dimension. Stick some double-sided adhesive to the back of the stitched banner. This tape is so sticky that it will hold very well. It might not hold that well when you have too much normal tape at the back. The double-sided tape is so strong that you will pull the normal tape off if you pull it to shift it. So only use tiny strips of normal tape to tie off and attach the threads. To make sure you divide the stitched banners evenly on the card, start at the top and bottom. Only remove a small piece of double-sided tape so there will be room to shift a little. The distance to the bottom and top will be the same as the distance to the size of the stitched banners. If you see the distance is correct, you can press down the part that has no protective strip anymore on the back. Next we will glue down the middle one, again with the double-sided tape firmly attached to the back of the stitching. I use ALINACRAFT's T-ruler. It helps me to find the middle position and also it helps me to align the strips all correctly under each other. The other two stitched banner strips can fit in between by eyeballing. However, you could measure as well if you prefer. Once all pieces are in the correct position, I peel off all backing strips and press them down. I still have a few dimensional foam blocks from 3M that I bought at Alina's shop. These I use for things that need to stick very firmly. And on the thread and dimension of this paper we need that. These foam blocks stick very well. To stick the word happy, I look at the two hexagons at the side to see if I position it in the middle of the card. Also I position it on top of two stitched banners, both halfway. And for the word birthday, I look at these two outer hexagons to see if I stick the word in the middle. As well, I positioned it half on two stitched banners. I could add some gems, or sequins, or some glossy and glitter, but this time I stick with the card like it is now. On the envelope, I can use die cuts I cut out of leftover paper pieces. And I actually did not plan anything to go with this card. I just cut these scraps and see how they will fit the envelope to match the card. And voila! Easy as can be. I'm pretty happy with this color combination. Sometimes you don't have enough floss to cover the whole die. Or maybe you don't have the time or effort to stitch it totally. Then we will just cover it with a nice text. I haven't decided yet which colors to choose. You can go for a background that has the same color as the cardstock you will be using. So I have the white shadow die for the word beautiful. The word beautiful can be cut out of the same paper as one of the stitched banners. In cream it is too light, but then there needs to be more contrast. So you will need a blue shadow die for the word. You see, I have a hard time to decide which color to use. I cut out some last parts of the leftover paper I have. By cutting the edges off, I will have it even at all sides. And be able to use them on this envelope for a fun and creative match to the card. Let's just scatter them around like snowflakes. Yes, this could also be a great idea for a winter card. Help! I cannot stop creating cards with this die set. Here you see the finished card. The shadow die has 2 layers and the text dies have 3 layers. The text strip is glued with foam tape to have it raised above the other text. I added some transparent pearls. They are like dewdrops on a winter background. You see that I stitched with the same color thread as the paper. That gives a lot of dimension and structure on this card, as well as the structured papers I used. How nice is this? I like it a lot. Here another view at the last 2 cards. You can see clearly the similarities and differences between these cards. On the right card I used gems, that are these ones. Pearl water drops. They are well used. On the right one I made a white text shadow, where on the left card I used 2 of the colors of the banners for the text shadow die. On the right one I stitched all banners with the same color thread as the color of the paper underneath. Where on the left one I switched threads and colors, although the colors of the threads are the same as the other papers. On the right card I covered a part of the non-stitching and added a sentiment banner text. On the left card there's more space between the text dies. And the envelopes, both nice and matching. I hope it inspires you to use up your scraps, and if you don't embellish your envelopes, use them to create the background for a new card. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and wish others to see my videos as well, as YouTube will suggest them to others. You can take a look at the descriptions below. There you can find all information and links to the products and other videos. Also check out my Pinterest page or Instagram or Facebook page for card making inspiration. Type Cisvolk to find it or use any of the links in my Linktree profile, Cisvolk. I wish you all a lovely creative day and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye!